I was sitting in my kitchen on a regular Saturday morning coffee mug. Warm in my hands, sunlight streaming through the window. 7 years of marriage to Sarah had given me this comfortable life in our small house just outside Portland. I worked as an architect. She was a graphic designer, and everything felt perfectly ordinary. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our plans for the future. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have found someone who got me completely. But that morning, staring at my reflection in the coffee, I could not shake the feeling that something had shifted. I just did not know how much. Before we dive into what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you have ever trusted someone with your whole heart, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, because what I am about to share changed everything I thought I knew about trust and love. Let me take you back to where it all started to unravel. I met Sarah 12 years ago at an art gallery downtown. She was standing in front of a black and white photograph of the Oregon coast, her head tilted slightly as she studied it. I was there sketching architectural details for a project, and something about the way she stood there completely absorbed made me walk over. We started talking about photography, then architecture, then everything else. She loved hiking old buildings, coffee that was too strong, and Sunday mornings with nowhere to be. So did I. Our wedding was small, held at a vineyard near the Columbia River Gorge, maybe 40 people. Sarah wore a simple dress and wildflowers in her hair. I can still remember how she looked walking toward me, sunlight, catching the red highlights in her brown hair, smiling like she had just won something precious. We honeymooned in Vancouver, spent our days exploring neighborhoods, and our nights planning the life we would build together. We talked about kids someday, maybe 2, a dog, growing old on a porch somewhere. For 6 years, that is exactly what we did. We built a life. Friday nights I would cook dinner while she edited photos at the kitchen table, her laptop surrounded by notes and coffee cups. We watched movies on the couch, her feet tucked under my leg. Weekends meant hiking trails around Mount Hood or driving to the coast. We were not flashy or dramatic. We were solid, comfortable, real. I designed buildings that would last, and I thought our marriage was the same. Something permanent. Then, about a year before everything fell apart, Sarah started changing. It was subtle at first. She would glance at her phone and smile at something I could not see. When I asked what was funny, she would say it was just a meme from work or a message from a friend. She started staying late at the office 2 or 3 nights a week. A new client, she explained. Important project. Tight deadlines. I believed her because Sarah had never lied to me before. Trust was our foundation, and I would not let myself become the kind of husband who checked up on his wife. She bought new perfume, something lighter, more floral than what she usually wore. She changed her hair, adding layers and highlights. She joined a gym and went religiously 4 times a week. When I complimented her, told her she looked beautiful, she just smiled and said she wanted to feel good about herself. I thought it was healthy. People need to take care of themselves. I supported it. But there was this one night, a Friday, when I suggested we watch a movie like we always did. Sarah said she was too tired, needed to sleep early. I nodded, told her to rest. But an hour later, I walked past the bedroom and saw her lying there, phone glowing in her hands, smiling at the screen. Not the polite smile you give a work email, a real smile. The kind she used to give me. When I stepped into the room, she locked her phone quickly and set it face down on the nightstand. That was the first time I felt distance between us. We had always shared everything. Our phones did not have passwords from each other. Our calendars synced. We knew each other's email passwords not because we checked them, but because there was nothing to hide. Suddenly, Sarah had a space I was not allowed into. I told myself I was overthinking it. Everyone deserves privacy. Relationships need breathing room. But there was this small stone in my chest that would not go away. Not painful exactly, just there. A weight I carried around that got a little heavier each day. I decided to trust her. I pushed the doubts down and focused on being a good husband. Maybe she was stressed. Maybe I needed to be more present. So I tried harder. I brought her flowers. I planned date nights. But she was always tired, always distracted, always somewhere else, even when she was sitting right next to me. Everything shattered on a Thursday afternoon in October. I had left work early because a client meeting got postponed. On the drive home, I decided to surprise Sarah with a romantic dinner. I stopped at the flower shop and bought tulips, her favorite. Then the grocery store for ingredients to make pasta carbonara, the dish I had cooked on our first anniversary. I was excited imagining her face when she walked in and saw candles on the table smelling garlic and wine in the air. I got home around 3 in the afternoon. Sarah's car was in the garage. That was strange. She was supposed to be at work until at least 6. I walked into the house quietly, setting the groceries and flowers on the kitchen counter. That is when I heard her voice upstairs. She was on the phone, and her tone made me freeze. It was soft, sweet, the way she used to talk to me early in our relationship. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, my heart pounding so loud, I thought she might hear it. Her words floated down clearly. "I miss you too. Tonight, let me see if I can make an excuse. He will not suspect anything. He never does." The bag of tulips slipped from my hand. I stood there unable to move, unable to breathe. Everything in my body went cold. The house I had walked into 1,000 times suddenly felt like a stranger's home. I heard her footsteps upstairs moving toward the stairs. I should have left. I should have walked out and processed what I had just heard. But I could not move. Sarah came down the stairs looking at her phone, smiling. When she glanced up and saw me standing there, her face went white. Pure panic. Then she tried to recover, forcing a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Duncan, I did not hear you come in. What are you doing home?" My voice came out flat, hollow. "Who were you talking to?" She hesitated for just a second too long. "A client. You know how demanding they can be. I have to keep them happy." I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman I had shared a bed with for 7 years, who knew how I took my coffee and what I looked like first thing in the morning, who had promised to build a life with me. And I saw a stranger. "Show me your phone," I said. Her expression hardened. "Excuse me. Your phone. Show it to me." "I cannot believe you are asking me that. You do not trust me, Sarah, please. This is toxic, Duncan. You are being controlling. We had never fought like this. In 7 years we had disagreed about paint colors and what movie to watch, but never anything that made my chest feel like it was caving in." She was crying now, telling me I was stressing her out, that she could not believe I would accuse her of something like this. For a moment I wondered if I was crazy, if I had misheard, if my paranoia had invented a problem that did not exist. But then I remembered her voice on the phone. He never does. The certainty in it, the casual cruelty. Sarah grabbed her keys and walked out, just like that. She got in her car and drove away, leaving me standing in our kitchen with a bag of dying tulips and ingredients for a dinner we would never eat. 2 days of silence followed. She did not come home, did not answer my calls. I existed in this strange fog, going through the motions at work, coming home to an empty house, lying awake at night, wondering where my wife was sleeping. Then I got a text from a number I did not recognize. "Duncan, this is Lydia, Sarah's friend from college. We met at your wedding. I need to talk to you. We met at a coffee shop downtown." Lydia looked uncomfortable, kept fidgeting with her cup. Finally she said, "I cannot watch you be lied to anymore. Sarah is having an affair. His name is Gregory. He is a photographer. They have been seeing each other for almost 6 months." The coffee shop sounds faded away. Lydia kept talking, showing me screenshots of messages Sarah had sent her. Messages where my wife talked about this other man like he was the sun, and I was just a shadow she was stuck with. I never felt this alive before. One message read, "Duncan is safe and stable, but Gregory makes me feel passionate. Like I am 25 again. Like anything is possible." I read those words over and over. Safe and stable. Like those were bad things. Like the life we had built was a cage instead of a home. That night, when Sarah finally came back to get some of her things, I showed her the screenshots. She did not even try to deny it. She just cried and said she was sorry, but in the same breath she said, "I love him, Duncan. I cannot help it." Those words broke something in me that I did not know could break. She packed a suitcase right there, moving through our bedroom, like she was checking out of a hotel. She took clothes, her laptop, some photos from her nightstand, left everything else. Left me. She pulled off her wedding ring and set it on the kitchen counter without a word, then walked out the door. I picked up that ring and held it in my palm. It was still warm from her finger. I sat on the kitchen floor until the sun came up, listening to the house settle around me. The clock ticking in the hallway, the refrigerator humming. Everything normal, everything destroyed. The first 2 weeks after Sarah left, I barely functioned. I went to work because I did not know what else to do, but I could not focus. I lost 12 pounds because food tasted like nothing. My best friend Marcus, who I have known since college, showed up one evening with takeout and beer and refused to leave. He slept on my couch for 3 days, making sure I ate, making sure I showered, making sure I did not disappear into the grief completely. "She does not deserve your pain, man," he told me one night. We were sitting on the back deck, the city lights spread out below us. "You gave her everything, and she threw it away for some fantasy. That is on her, not you." I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Helen Anderson, a calm woman in her 50s, who let me talk through everything without judgment. Week after week, I sat in her office and slowly learned how to separate who I was from what Sarah had done. It was not about me being enough or not enough. It was about her choices, her decisions, her betrayal. The nights were the hardest. I would lie in bed and reach for her out of habit, my hand, finding empty space. I looked at old photos and felt like I was mourning someone who had died, except she was out there somewhere alive and happy with someone else. Eventually, I took down the photos, packed them in a box and put them in the garage, not throwing them away but not torturing myself either. I threw myself into work. A new project came in, designing a community center for a neighborhood that had been neglected for years. I poured everything into it. Every ounce of pain, every sleepless night, every moment of wondering what I had done wrong. The building became my therapy. Clean lines, strong foundation, windows that let in light. Everything I wanted my life to be. 4 months after Sarah left, I started to feel human again. Marcus convinced me to join a running club that met on Saturday mornings. I was terrible at first, could barely make it 2 miles without stopping. But slowly, I got stronger. Met people who did not know anything about my failed marriage, who just knew me as Duncan, the guy who always showed up, even when it was raining. I started sketching again, something I had loved in college, but had stopped doing somewhere along the way. I would sit in coffee shops on Sunday mornings and draw buildings, people, whatever caught my eye. I went hiking alone, taking trails I had only ever done with Sarah, and claiming them for myself. One morning I stood at the summit of Mount Hood, watching the sunrise paint the sky orange and pink, and I felt something I had not felt in months: peace. I realized I did not need someone else to be complete. For years I had thought of myself as half of a unit, Duncan and Sarah, but I was whole on my own. I had interests and dreams and a life that was mine. The divorce papers moved forward. Sarah signed everything without contest. We split assets cleanly. She did not ask for much. Maybe guilt, maybe she just wanted it over. Either way, it was almost done. Marcus introduced me to Emily, a landscape architect he knew through work. We got coffee a few times. She was interesting and kind, with an easy laugh and a passion for native plants. I was not ready for anything serious, but it felt good to remember I could connect with someone new, that there was a future beyond the wreckage of my marriage. Then, on a Tuesday morning 6 months after Sarah had walked out, I got an email from Lydia. The subject line just said, "I thought you should know." Inside was a link to an obituary. Gregory Pearson, 38 years old, died in a single car accident on Highway 26. Police reports indicated alcohol was involved. He had hit a telephone pole going 70 miles per hour. Died on impact. I stared at the screen for a long time, trying to figure out how I felt. Not happy. Definitely not happy. But not sad either. Just empty. Hollow. I thought about Sarah, wondered if she was okay, if she had anyone to support her through this. Then I realized that was not my responsibility anymore. She had made her choice, and whatever consequences came from it were hers to handle. I closed the email and went back to work. 3 weeks later, on a Friday night, I was home reading when the doorbell rang. It was 8 o'clock. I was not expecting anyone. I opened the door and froze. Sarah stood on my porch. She looked nothing like the woman who had left 6 months ago. She had lost weight, her cheekbones sharp in a way that looked unhealthy. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, unwashed. Dark circles under her eyes. She was wearing old jeans and a sweatshirt I recognized from college. She looked small, broken. "Duncan," she said, her voice cracking. "I made a terrible mistake. Can we talk?" I stood there, hand still on the door, not sure what to do. My heart was not racing. I was not angry. I just felt calm, eerily calm. "Please," she whispered. I stepped aside and let her in. We sat in the living room, but the geography was different now. I took the armchair. She sat on the couch, a careful distance between us. She cried as she talked, words spilling out in a rush. After Gregory died, everything fell apart. She realized what she had given up, what she had destroyed. Gregory had not been what she thought. The passion she had mistaken for love was just intensity, chaos. He drank too much, owed money to people she never met, made promises he never kept. They fought constantly. She lived in his small apartment that smelled like cigarette smoke, and regret working remote and avoiding her old friends because she was ashamed. When he died, she had no one. She went to the funeral and realized she did not really know him, did not know his family, his history, who he was beneath the surface. She had blown up her entire life for a fantasy. "You were always there," she said, looking at me with red, swollen eyes. "Stable, kind, loving. I was a fool to leave that. To leave you. I know I do not deserve it, but I am asking for a second chance. We can start over. I will do anything. I still love you, Duncan." I never stopped. I let her finish. Watched her cry, watched her plead. And I felt nothing but clarity. She did not love me. She loved safety. She loved the idea of going back to a life where someone took care of her, where she did not have to face the consequences of her choices alone. But that was not love. That was convenience. I stood up, walked to the door and opened it. My voice was steady when I spoke. "Sarah, I appreciate you coming here and being honest. But the answer is no." She looked like I had slapped her. "But we had 7 years together. Does that not mean anything?" "It did mean everything. But you chose to throw it away. You did not leave because we had problems. You left because you wanted excitement. And when that excitement turned into reality and difficulties, you want to come back to safety. I am not your safety net, Sarah. I am not your backup plan. I really am sorry. I really do regret it. I forgive you," I said. "Not for you. For myself. So I can move on, completely." I spent 6 months rebuilding my life, learning to be happy alone. I am not going to destroy that progress. I gestured to the open door. "I wish you well, Sarah. I really do. But we are done." She stood slowly, looking at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Maybe she was. The Duncan she had left was trusting to a fault, willing to overlook red flags, eager to make everyone else happy. This Duncan was different, stronger, clear about his worth. I went hiking alone, taking trails I had only ever done with Sarah, and claiming them for myself. One morning I stood at the summit of Mount Hood, watching the sunrise paint the sky orange and pink, and I felt something I had not felt in months: peace. I realized I did not need someone else to be complete. For years I had thought of myself as half of a unit, Duncan and Sarah, but I was whole on my own. I had interests and dreams and a life that was mine. The divorce papers moved forward. Sarah signed hers without any objections. It was over officially. I decided to renovate the house, change things that had been the same for too long. I repainted the bedroom, got rid of furniture we had picked out together, brought in new pieces that were just mine. The house transformed into something that reflected who I was becoming, not who I had been. I kept seeing Emily. We took it slow, no pressure, no expectations. Just two people enjoying each other's company. We hiked together, grabbed dinner, talked about our work. She did not ask much about Sarah, and I appreciated that. This was not about replacing anyone. It was about moving forward. The community center project was completed in early spring. The opening ceremony drew a huge crowd. Families, kids, local officials. I stood there watching people explore the space I had designed, kids running through the courtyard, parents chatting in the Sunday. Marcus clapped me on the shoulder. "You built something good here," he said. And I had. Not just the building, my whole life. Looking back on everything, I learned 3 things that changed me. First, trust is precious, but self-respect is priceless. I used to think love meant giving everything, even at the expense of my own dignity. But real love, the kind worth having, builds you up. It does not require you to shrink yourself or ignore your instincts. Mutual respect is not optional. It is the foundation. Second, people will show you who they are. Believe them the first time. I ignored so many signs because I wanted to believe the best. I wanted to trust. But trust without awareness is just willful blindness. When someone shows you through their actions that they do not value you, believe them. Do not make excuses. Do not wait for it to get worse. Third, you cannot be someone's safety net. You deserve to be someone's first choice. Sarah came back when she had nowhere else to go, when her fantasy collapsed and she needed stability. But that is not the same as wanting me. That is wanting what I could provide. I deserved someone who chose me not because I was safe, but because I was exactly who they wanted. We all deserve that. The pain from betrayal is temporary, but the growth that comes from it lasts forever. I do not regret the 7 years I spent with Sarah. Those years taught me how to love someone deeply, how to build a partnership, how to be present. And the betrayal taught me how to love myself, how to set boundaries, how to walk away from something that hurts me, even when part of me wants to hold on. I am standing on Mount Hood again, same spot where I stood 6 months ago, feeling broken. But today, Emily is next to me. We are watching the sunrise together, the sky turning shades of gold and rose. I smile, feeling grateful. Not because I found someone new, though that is nice, but because I found myself again. Actually, I found a better version of myself, stronger, clearer, more honest about what I need and what I will accept. Sometimes the best revenge is not revenge at all. It is simply becoming the best version of yourself. It is building a life so full and meaningful that the person who hurt you becomes irrelevant, not because you hate them, but because you have moved beyond them completely. I finally understood something simple but profound. I did not need Sarah to come back. I needed me to come back to myself. And I did. So, here is my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between taking someone back or choosing yourself? What did you do, and how did it turn out? Share your story in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more real stories about real life. Share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminded you that you are stronger than you think, and you deserve someone who chooses you every single day. Take care of yourselves out there. You are worth it.